We're going to talk about the statistics feature of the SA Development Press Monitor. The second line on the 40x2 backlit display is devoted to statistics, and you can see that it starts out with a rounds, followed by a time, followed by a rounds per hour current, and then finally a rounds per hour total. We're going to start with the rounds, and you notice that it seems odd that it starts with a -3, but the reason for that is because this particular press monitor is configured for a Dillon 550, which has 4 stations. It's set up such that if you were to put a brand new empty case in station 1 and cycle it all the way around, the second that that round hits the finish bin and you have 1 round in the bin, the counter will read 1. So that's why it starts at a negative number. We're going to go ahead and start cycling the press. You'll notice that the counter changes as I rotate the shell plate. I'm going to try to do this at a rate of speed that is about once every 5 seconds. This is faster than you'd want to go when reloading. Probably it's around 720 rounds per hour, so see how accurate I am at this. The timer, notice that the colon is blinking on the time. The time is in hours and minutes. The colon indicates that that particular timer is running. It's an automatic timer. It is set up so that if you stop, and I'm going to go ahead and stop here, if you stop moving the press within 30 seconds, or actually after a period of 30 seconds, the press timer will stop automatic. You'll see the colon will become a solid colon and not a blinking colon. The reason for that is that this lets you walk away from the press or do something else and have the timer stop automatically. The rounds per hour total, the final statistics on the display, is calculated by the number of rounds you've produced and that timer. So you wouldn't want a timer just running if you're not actually working on the press. So that's why it stops and starts automatically. You'll notice that it's now solid. That means the timer is stopped. If I go ahead and begin loading again, you'll notice that it starts right back up. So that's the nice thing about that timer. Now, the way that it's configured by default with this 30 seconds is such that it really tells you what your rounds per hour total are for your press time. If you're in the habit of stopping and filling primer tubes, it's not going to include the time that you spend filling primer tubes, because the press timer is going to stop after 30 seconds, and all of that time won't be logged in the time figure. Now, if you're someone who actually wants that time, the other, the incidental tasks that you perform, such as filling primer tubes, included in the total rounds per hour total, you can tweak that 30 seconds to a much longer time period in setup. You can simply change it to 15 minutes or 30 minutes or some longer amount that makes it so the timer doesn't stop after only 30 seconds of inactivity. That way your other events will be included in the rounds per hour total timer. Even if you do that and you go that route and you want those things included, you could always stop the timer manually by holding the stop timer button right here. If you hold that button down for 3 seconds, it will stop the timer, even if the press hasn't met that inactivity period yet. If you have a damaged round and you need to adjust it, you can simply press the minus button. Notice that it changes the counter by 1 round. If you were in ignore mode and you finished up a round which didn't get added to the counter and you needed to add that to the counter, you can simply press the plus. So you can alter the number of rounds on the round counter very easily for lost cartridges or cartridges that were finished while the press monitor wasn't watching what you were doing. So the third statistic on this line is the rounds per hour current. And I'm going to go ahead and begin back up again here. I'm going to try to do it every 5 seconds, and we should hit very close to 720 rounds per hour, because that's what it would be if you did it every 5 seconds. It automatically measures the last, looks like I'm doing a little bit fast, the last 3 to 15 rounds, and reports it in the rounds per hour current. So that's kind of a what is my current speed, whereas the rounds per hour total is what is my speed for the overall session. You'll notice too that that counter, if you stop loading and you hit that inactivity period, will go to 0. So those are the main 4 statistics that the press monitor supports, but there's 2 additional statistics that you can also use. I'm going to go into setup by holding the enter setup, and we're going to actually tell the press monitor how many rounds we wish to load. I'm going to say yes to specify rounds or charge, and for the specified rounds to load, you'll notice that all the menus in setup are very easy to use. This one has a little graph telling you where you are in that. It says NS to 5,000, which means your options are not specified all the way up to 5,000 rounds. I'm going to hold down the plus button because I want to tell it I'm going to load 500 rounds. And the longer you hold it, the faster it goes, so you can get to larger numbers pretty easily. I let go too early. It kind of becomes a little bit of a game to figure out how close you can get without going over sort of a thing, and ooh, not bad. So I'm now at 500 rounds, and you notice that the graph is showing just a little segment indicating that you're partway through that 5,000. It just helps you understand where you are in the overall picture of options. I'm going to hit ignore, and we're going to exit setup. And we're back to this mode. Now notice that now the display says RMRD. That's the remaining rounds. And it's going to automatically cycle through 3 possible options. Here's rounds and time, which are the usual 2 we've reviewed. Then it's going to go to remaining rounds and remaining time. And then it's going to display rounds and remaining time. And it's going to just keep cycling through those. Now it's your choice whether you want it to cycle through those or whether you just want to leave it on one particular setting. You can go into setup and say, I just want it to be left on this particular display. And if you need to change the statistics, there's a swap stats. You just hold this button down and it will go ahead and swap stats to any one of those 3 settings and stay there. So it's up to you. The remaining time is calculated based on how much time you've spent to load how many rounds you've loaded. So it knows what your overall rounds per hour total is, and it simply calculates how many rounds are remaining. And if you keep up the same rate of speed, it will tell you that in my case it would take me an hour and 13 minutes to finish loading these 479 rounds as quickly as I have loaded the first 21 rounds. So those are the statistics that the press monitor supports. There's also long-term statistics, and I'll show those to you real quickly. If you flip the press off and on, one of the things it displays at startup is your total, and there they are right there, 155 rounds, half an hour, 261 rounds per hour. It maintains those at power off, so if you just get in the habit of reloading and reloading and reloading, you'll end up getting thousands of rounds put on there, and you'll have an overall rounds per hour total of all of your reloading sessions, so you can get an idea of what your usual rate of speed is. So that covers the session statistics. If you have any questions, please go to our website. It's www.pressmonitordevice.com. There is a complete manual that is on the support link, and also there is email contacts you can use to get a hold of us if you have any questions.